All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this thing, all right? Seth Rollins is Mr. Money in the Bank, the men's Money in the Bank winner of 2025. He beat LA Knight, he beat Penta, he beat Andrade, he beat Solo Sikoa, he beat a whole hell of a lot more to win this Money in the Bank contract for the second time in his career. He's only one of two men who's won this Money in the Bank contract via the ladder match. It is him, Seth Freakin Rollins, and yeah, CM Punk. They're the only two to climb the ladder, retrieve the briefcase, and win the Money in the Bank contract on two separate occasions. Edge has won it twice. The Miz has won it twice. They've only climbed the ladder once to win it. They won it in a one-on-one match. Edge won it from Mr. Kennedy. The Miz won it from Otis. But needless to say, Seth Rollins is going to be on a terror run with this Money in the Bank contract this time around because he's got Braun Breaker, because he's got Bronson Reed. Maybe most importantly, he has Paul Heyman. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of this thing, because Seth Rollins could do something here that, we've never really seen before. His first run as Mr. Money in the Bank, he went on a tear. He's probably the most famous Mr. Money in the Bank that the WWE has ever had. And again, that's saying a lot, considering Edge was Mr. Money in the Bank, CM Punk was Mr. Money in the Bank, The Miz was Mr. Money in the Bank, Randy Orton, John Cena. A lot of people have been Mr. Money in the Bank. Seth Rollins did something with that briefcase back in 2014 and early 2015 that no one else was really able to do. He made you almost forget that he was Mr. Money in the Bank because it took him so long to cash it in. When he won the Money in the Bank contract in 2014, he was not really ready to be a future world champion, in my opinion. John Cena had won the WWE Championship that night after defeating Randy Orton and Kane in a ladder match. Seth Rollins had just turned on the Shield. He had just become a full-time singles professional wrestler in the WWE because he was in a group for the first year and a half of his WWE main roster career. He didn't really have any footing. He didn't really know his ideology. He didn't have an identity as Seth Rollins on the WWE main roster on Monday Night Raw. Triple H and Stephanie McMahon take him under their wing, joins the Authority. Seth Rollins has mentors in Randy Orton, mentors in Kane, mentors in The Big Show. Seth Rollins has J&J Security with Joey Mercury and Jamie Noble. He had a lot of help as a slimy, sneaky heel in the Authority. He had rivalries with John Cena. He had rivalries with Randy Orton. He had rivalries with Brock Lesnar, not to mention Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns. And by the time he had finally decided to cash in that Money in the Bank contract to WrestleMania 31 in the main event with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, you didn't really think that he was going to cash in. But the writing was on the wall. The fans were reluctant to accept Roman Reigns as the next John Cena, though Vince McMahon was shoving him down our throats. Him winning the Royal Rumble in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, was signs enough to let the WWE brass and the WWE executives know that Roman Reigns, this guy ain't it. The Rock, his cousin, comes out, raises his hand in front of the crowd, in front of the Philly faithful after he tossed Rusev over the top rope to win that Royal Rumble. The only Royal Rumble win to this point in Roman Reigns' career. They were booing him out of the building. Seth Rollins, though he was getting booed, it was good heat. He was a bad guy. He was a heel, and he was a great heel, and it was coming to the point where he was ready to become that slimy, heelish version that the WWE needed to be their champion, because Brock Lesnar was a part-time WWE champion since SummerSlam. John Cena, old news. We've seen it. Been there, done that. Randy Orton, been there, done that at that point in time. WWE needed a fresh, new WWE champion, and it wasn't going to be Roman Reigns because he wasn't ready yet and the fans weren't ready. They were ready for Seth Rollins, though, and that music hit after that F5 from Brock Lesnar on Roman Reigns. I wasn't expecting it. I feel like a lot of people weren't expecting it. The heist of the century, as Michael Cole said, cashing in the Money in the Bank contract to pin Roman Reigns in that match. He didn't even pin the champion. He's the first guy to cash in Money in the Bank, and he didn't even have to pin the champion. That's how heel of a Money in the Bank cash-in that was from Seth Rollins to main event WrestleMania 31. He says that he's never made evented night 2 of WrestleMania, and that's his last goal in the WWE. In my opinion, and a lot of people's opinions, he had one of the greatest main event finishes finishes in WWE history, with the confetti and the fireworks going off in Santa Clara, in San Francisco, California at WrestleMania 31. He had one of the greatest WrestleMania main event moments of all time to close that show. He still wants to do more. He could do it this year. What if he's the first ever Money in the Bank contract holder to cash in this Money in the Bank contract in the main event of WrestleMania twice? WrestleMania 31, WrestleMania 42. Why not? He joined forces with Paul Heyman to turn on CM Punk and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 41 in Las Vegas, Nevada. What if he cashes in the Money in the Bank contract and wins the undisputed WWE Championship in the main event of WrestleMania 42 in Las Vegas, Nevada? There's a lot that can be told with this story. He can really cash in whenever he wants. Seth Rollins has Braun Breaker. He has Bronson Reed. He has Paul Heyman to do his bidding. He could get WWE and World Heavyweight Championship matches without cashing in the contract because of his star power. Seth Freakin Rollins has all the power in the world. He's got the whole world in his hands. To quote Bray Wyatt, the late great Bray Wyatt, Seth Rollins can do really whatever he wants over the next year with that contract, whether he cashes in next week on Raw, whether he cashes in at Night of Champions in that match between John Cena and CM Punk, whether he cashes in at SummerSlam, whether he waits till later on in the year to cash in. We don't know who Seth Rollins is going after either. I mean, last night after the Punk and Cena promo, you almost made it seem like that Seth Rollins was going to go after the Undisputed Championship as opposed to the World Heavyweight Championship. Remember, in 2023, when they introduced that World Heavyweight Championship, Seth Rollins was the man that carried that title and made it relevant in a world in WWE where Roman Reigns held the WWE hostage with the Universal and WWE Championships. Roman Reigns was the guy, the champion, the only world champion in WWE that they had to insert a brand new title and bring back the World Heavyweight Championship that they retired in 2013. Seth Rollins carried the weight of that on his shoulders and made the World Heavyweight Championship relevant. Even when Roman Reigns said that's the loser's bracket, that's the consolation prize right there. He absolutely buried Seth Rollins in that World Heavyweight Championship on the build in the road to WrestleMania 40, but Seth Rollins kept carrying away. Drew McIntyre ends up winning the title, and then CM Punk screws him. Damian Priest with a huge cash-in, huge moment. That moment doesn't happen unless Seth Rollins elevates the World Heavyweight Championship to the level that he did going into WrestleMania 40 and throughout 2023. So that World Heavyweight Championship where it stands right now is because of Seth Rollins. Jey Uso and Gunther had a great World Heavyweight Championship match in the main event of Monday Night Raw last night in Phoenix, Arizona at the Footprint Center. Back and forth, sleeper hold, sleeper hold, sleeper hold, sleeper hold. Gunther ends up picking up the win and ends up winning back his World Heavyweight Championship from Jey Uso that he lost at WrestleMania Saturday in Las Vegas back in April. Great match, great finish. That finished the way it should have finished, with Gunther being the dream killer for Jey Uso and winning back his World Heavyweight Championship. They'll probably have another rematch at Night of Champions and close out that rivalry. We'll see if Jey Uso reclaims the World Heavyweight Championship. I think it was a good run. He had his moment. He won the World Championship. The fans got behind him. He wins the Royal Rumble. I don't think Jey Uso necessarily needs the World Heavyweight Championship moving forward, whereas Gunther can continue to be the dominant World Heavyweight Champion moving forward on Monday Night Raw. And given that Gunther is the World Heavyweight Champion on Monday Night Raw, it's not necessary for a heel Seth Rollins to ever cash in on a heel Gunther, and Gunther is too dominant of a champion to bury having Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed beat the holy shit out of him and having Seth Rollins cash in the Money in the Bank contract. As much as I'd love to see Seth Rollins versus Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship, bad guy versus bad guy rarely happens in the WWE, and I haven't seen it ever since I've watched WWE. So it seems like Seth Rollins could potentially be going after the winner of the Night of Champions matchup between John Cena and CM Punk. I mean, CM Punk and Seth Rollins rivalry goes all the way back to 2014 when CM Punk walked out of WWE for a decade. He returned. Seth Rollins was not happy. You saw the video after Survivor Series of Seth Rollins flipping him off. It took over a year and a half for them to have their first one-on-one match. Raw on Netflix, a great back-and-forth wrestling match between CM Punk and Seth Rollins with Punk picking up the win. Punk would then pin him again at the Elimination Chamber before Seth Rollins got the huge win in the main event of WrestleMania 40. But again, He didn't pin CM Punk in that triple threat match. He pinned the tribal chief Roman Reigns, and we're going to have to get to that feud at some point as well. That's a WrestleMania main event in itself, and WWE might hold off on Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns in that main event for WrestleMania 42 in Las Vegas. So now you tell the story of Seth Rollins versus CM Punk going into SummerSlam, going into Survivor Series War Games, and going into 2026, because I don't think that rivalry's even close to being over. Seth Rollins cashing in on a heel John Cena doesn't make sense either. So Seth Rollins cashing in, whether it be CM Punk or a future babyface WWE champion down the line, whoever takes the title from John Cena, maybe even it's going to be Cody Rhodes to set up Rhodes versus Rollins like we discussed earlier down the line. Those are the two guys I see Seth Rollins cashing in on, whether it's CM Punk, whether it's Cody Rhodes, or maybe even potentially Roman Reigns if Roman Reigns gets a crack at John Cena before December ends and before John Cena walks away in the sunset in WWE forever. So that's my kind of prediction on a Seth Rollins Money in the Bank run this year. I think he's going to be Mr. Money in the Bank throughout 2025. I don't think it's going to be a quick cash in. I think it's going to be just like 2014, where he's going to kind of cast that dark cloud over Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown, because he can truly cash in whenever he wants with his two big bad Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker standing right behind him to cash in really whenever the hell he wants. But I think he's probably ultimately going to cash in on the undisputed WWE champion.